Okay, good morning. It's March 20th, 2025. This is the regular council meeting for the town of Rocky Mountain House. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 9 a.m. First order of business, we have an agenda in front of us and we need to adopt it. Does anyone have any additions to the agenda? I do have, sorry, go ahead, Councillor. I do have one, the Taste of Rocky event for April 4th. We would add under item 8.3 as correspondence for action. And Councillor Schipel, did you have something to add as well?
No, Acting Mayor, I was going to just approve the agenda
Okay.
with the amendment.
Okay.
So I'll so move the agenda as presented with the amendment.
Okay, thank you for making that motion. Any discussion on that motion? Call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to delegations. Our first delegation is Food Cycle Science, and I believe we have a virtual attendance from Maddie. There she is.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
So yeah, go ahead and start your presentation.
amazing, thank you. I'll share my screen. Just hope you can all see that. Pulling this over. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, we also have the presentation in front of us as well.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, Mayor, members of council and staff. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Maddie Frum. I am the Municipal Partnerships Representative at Food Cycle. I'm here today to discuss a food waste program for the town house. So Food Cycle Science is a Canadian of Ottawa, and we're 100% focused on food waste diversion solutions. And we do that by using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. So our in-home food recycler is sold direct to consumers, to businesses, and to classrooms through partnerships with not-for-profit organizations, and then to municipalities like yours through our Food Cycler and municipal. This is the area I'll be focusing on today. So we've partnered
Maddie,
with
can I pause? Maddie, can I pause you for just a moment? Your audio is cutting in and out. I wonder if you, your mic,
Okay.
is it like voice activated?
I'm not sure here. I'll just switch to my.
Great.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. We don't want to miss. We don't want to miss anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll pick up where I left off. So we've partnered with more than 150 Canadian municipalities. You'll find us in rural and remote areas and all the way to highly populated cities. And nearby to you, we have programs in Lacombe County and Drayton Valley. The communities that partner with us have the same thing in common. They understand that there's an issue with food waste and they've decided to make a change. Now, the problem with food waste is that it's avoidable. It accounts.
You're still
Really
Maddie. You're still cutting in and out.
Okay. I'm so sorry about this. I'm using my computer audio. There must just be a problem with it. I don't want to take up too much more of your time if this is going to be an issue. So let me.
Maddie, it seems that when you're talking steadily, I wonder if it's not just voice activated, and if you take a too long of a pause, then there's a lag to catch you again. That's what it sounds like on our end.
Okay.
Maybe sit real close to the microphone and don't take a breath.
Okay, I just switched something. Can you hear me better now? And if I pause, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Okay, perfect. Hopefully that works. So the problem with food waste is that it's avoidable. It accounts for about half of our household waste, and it's made up of liquid, which is heavy and it freezes in the winter. But on top of that, food waste in landfills is responsible for generating the harmful greenhouse gas methane. So all of these factors together make it so that food waste is a problem that has a strong municipal impact. One of the impacts to municipalities is that since food waste makes up such a large portion of the waste stream, it causes our landfills to fill up quickly. And as you know, operating a landfill is very costly for the municipality, so we want to try and extend the lifespan of them for as long as possible. And then the environmental impact is that organic waste in landfills produces methane, as I've mentioned, and that's 25 times more harmful than CO2. So it has a very big impact. And then in our community, you know, putting food waste in the garbage causes odors, which isn't nice for us, but it's very interesting for animals like bears and raccoons who love to rummage through our trash. So if we can remove food waste, it eliminates volumes and reduces these issues. Now, we often get asked, haven't we solved this already? And I should have mentioned earlier, I am aware that your town uses green bins, and that's great. But the problem we see across Canada is that green bins still struggle to get above a 40 to 60% participation rate, meaning that a lot of organics are just ending up in the landfill at the end. Then there's also the ick factor associated with the green bins. It gets smelly, it attracts maggots, bugs, and other vermin. And then in the winter, it freezes in there, piling up and becoming a bit of a challenge to deal with. And while there are troubleshooting suggestions, we hear and find that sometimes even these are not enough to maintain resident participation. And then people in your community might backyard compost as well. And of course, this is an ideal solution, but unfortunately, backyard composting isn't feasible for everyone depending on living situation, and it's still not a year-round solution with the issue that it freezes. And then it does still attract bears and other animals. And then finally, the last and easiest solution would be to continue to throw organic waste in the landfill, but the long-term impacts are costly and harmful to the environment. So at Food Cycle Science, we've proposed a different way to manage food waste. Essentially, we've built a small kitchen appliance, roughly the same size as an air fryer. It's very straightforward to use. You put your food waste into this machine, you push a button, and then in a matter of hours, you're left with a dry, sterile, odorless, and nutrient-rich soil amendment. It can handle all types of food waste, and that includes meat, poultry, fish, dairy, and most bones. And that's great because sometimes these are not recommended to go into a green bin. I believe in your green bin it is fine. But the machine can be used anywhere with a plug. Most people will store it in their kitchen, basement, or perhaps a heated garage. It takes about 4 to 8 hours to complete, so an overnight cycle, and it uses about 1 kilowatt hour of power. So depending on the grid that you're on, that would be about 11 to 15 cents per cycle. And then the resulting soil amendment that you're left with at the end has many beneficial uses, from putting it in your garden or into any type of composting system, and I'll touch on it in a few more slides. So here's a look at the two units we would be recommending for your municipality. The difference between these two really just comes down to capacity and unit size. So the Eco 3 holds 3.5 liters of food waste and is designed for smaller families or spaces. And the Eco 5 holds 5 liters of food waste and was designed for larger families or those who produce more food waste. And both machines are equipped with refillable carbon filters to eliminate smells that occur during the process. The filters are not required for the machine to work. So if you're keeping this in, let's say, a basement or a room you're not going into frequently, you don't need to worry about the filter. The machine will work just fine on its own. Now, I like to show this image because it's a really good example of the reduction in volume you see when you run the food cycler. So one cycle achieves a reduction in volume up to 90%, leaving you with about 100 grams of that soil amendment. Now, the byproduct created during the process, this soil amendment, it's completely dry and it's an inert biomass that has many beneficial uses. So most people will use it to fertilize their garden soil right at home, but you can also add it to any type of backyard composting system. It integrates well into a leaf and yard waste system, or you could drop it off at a composting site, a local farm, or a community garden. But in your community, of course, the food cycler would be useful in your green bin. And I think especially during the winter months when green bin collection slows, residents won't have to worry about either food waste freezing in that bin anymore and causing issues for the collection period. Cold Lake, Alberta, they use the same type of green bin collection system where it goes bi-weekly in the winter months, and they've just adopted the pilot program to test the viability of the solution with their green bin. So we just overall find it complements a green bin system really well.
So from an environmental standpoint, over its lifetime, the food cycler is a net negative carbon solution. And what that means, it's similar to using solar panels. So when you use the food cycler to avoid bringing food waste to a landfill, you're actually avoiding more greenhouse gases than you create in that process. And the same can't be said for other municipal operations like collection services that do create emissions at each step. Now, in addition to the environmental impact, the traditional method of managing waste is a heavily burdened system with unrelenting costs from trucking and maintenance, but the food cycler offers a decentralized approach that helps avoid some unnecessary additional costs, greenhouse gas emissions, and improper food waste breakdown. So the food waste that is created in the home can be easily managed right in the home. So one thing we've learned from working with municipalities is that residents are really interested in being part of the solution. They want to try new things, they want options, and they really like it when their government brings these options to the community. And with the food cycler, you get to bring something innovative and tangible to residents. And since food waste accounts for such a large portion of household waste, it's the single most impactful strategy to achieving some food waste diversion targets. Now, the results from our pilot projects have been overwhelmingly positive. So we're able to achieve a 98% participation rate. We have a user experience rating of 4.6 out of 5 stars. So it just means that people find the food cycler easy to use. And we see a significant amount of net new waste diversion. So approximately 300 kilograms per household per year is being diverted with the food cycler. After seeing how well this initial pilot goes, most municipalities decide to expand their program to more households in the community. So in Nelson, BC, for example, they ran 2 successful pilot projects and now are putting a food cycler in every home in their city of 11,000 people. So the pilot program is a typical kind of 12-week pilot to test the viability of the solution in your community. So residents will purchase a food cycler at a subsidized rate from the municipality. They use their unit, they track their number of cycles over a period of 12 weeks. At the end, residents keep their food cycler. We also ask that they fill out a brief survey so we can continue to evaluate the program's success. And then with that survey and the data collected over the 12 weeks, we compile the results and present them back to you in a feasibility study. Additionally, we would be presenting a plan to expand the program to more households in your community if that is something that aligned with your community's interest. So the pilot program pricing. So it works on a subsidy model where Food Cycle Science, we provide a discount reducing the retail price by 50%. We then ask that the municipality provide a subsidy of $100 per unit and residents contribute that remaining amount. So the Eco 3 ends up being $200 and the Eco 5 is $300. And keep in mind, after the pilot program, this is the residents to keep and keep using, so you'll continue to see some additional benefits with waste diversion. So here I have pilot-sized recommendations. For the initial pilot, I would recommend a program of 100 households. This size would provide us with lots of great data in your community that would support any future waste management decision making after the program's over. So since the municipal subsidy is $100 per household, a pilot of 100 households would require an investment of $10,000 plus the cost of shipping and taxes. But this is just a recommendation. If you are interested, we're always open to working with you to determine a pilot size that is better for your budget and your needs. So lastly, here are some reasons that may resonate with you as you consider whether you should pilot with us. The first is that you have the opportunity to trial this technology at well below market rates. The next is you're going to be able to see some immediate and impactful benefits like improved waste diversion, lower disposal costs, and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. But overall, you're able to provide constituents with a low-cost municipal service, all while being a steward for the environment. So I welcome the town of Rocky Mountain House as a partner in the fight against food waste, as I believe your community is a great fit for the benefits of this program. Today, all I ask is you receive my presentation as information, and should there be interest in partnering with us on a pilot program, that you refer to staff for a report and recommendation. Thank you so much. I'm prepared to answer any questions, and I'll stop sharing my screen as well.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation, Maddie. I'm just going to look to council to see if we have any questions. Councillor Schipholt.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I have one question about multi-residential buildings. You spoke basically about houses here. Have you had any experiences in multi-residential buildings, and what happens with the waste at that point? They don't have a garden typically or a place to put it, so what happens there?
Thank you so much for the question. So we do have experience in multi-residential. We've ran a few pilot programs in just in those buildings. So in Belleville, for example, in Ontario, we ran a program where food cyclers were in, I think it was 15 apartment buildings it was a seniors only building, and they really enjoyed the food cycler because it made their garbage easier to manage in that apartment building. You know, typically you're bringing it downstairs to the garbage room. But what they did with the soil amendment was they stored it in a separate bin in their garbage room and then had a collection service come pick it up. There's also different ways to manage it, and we could figure out something that would be specific to your community, whether that would be having a farm come pick it up and using it there, or sending it to, you know, a community garden or a composting facility. But yeah, I think having it in one bin in the garbage room would be the easiest way to manage that soil amendment.
Okay, thank you. I do have a question as well. As with any appliance, there's a lifespan for an appliance. What is the lifespan of the equipment?
Thank you for the question. So the lifespan is 7 to 10 years, but we've built it in a modular way so that if a part breaks, we're able to have it repaired and continue using the food cycler. What happens at the end of the lifespan is we will partner with an e-waste facility in your region and have them properly recycle the food cycler, because ending up in a landfill is not what we want to happen. So we try and make it as easy as possible for residents to properly recycle this, and it's 100% recyclable when done that way.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Shippold.
Thank you. I just want to get the price. So every resident who wanted one of these have to pay $200. We as a municipality would have to ante $100 up. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
If the municipality wanted to reduce the price further for residents, that's welcome. We do see the most success in programs where, you know, it is cheaper for residents, so that would be increasing the municipal subsidy if that was possible. But that is correct how the program is. $100 from the municipality, and then the remaining portion is covered by the resident.
In today's world, for an appliance, that seems like a fairly high price for an appliance for your house. That is what it is, I guess, or is that negotiable? Or, you know, if you get more residents, does it come down in price? If we distribute ourselves, what are the options for making it more reasonable to the residents?
Yeah, of course. So thank you for the question. So there is a bulk discount when you purchase 500 or more food cyclers, and that's specific to the Eco5. So per unit, we reduce the price by an additional $50 in our municipal program. But right now, our municipal program is the best and most affordable option for everybody, the municipality, the residents, and we're open to chatting with you to figuring out the best program for your community's budget. But as of right now, this is the municipal program that we've been using.
Okay, I am not seeing any further questions, so oh, yes, Mr. Kraus?
Hi, Maddie. Just a question. Your presentation's on residential. Looking on your website, there's also a commercial product for restaurants. Is there a program for that?
Thank you for the question. So we don't have a program for the commercial, that commercial unit, the FC75. This is just focusing on residential.
Okay. Not seeing any further questions. Thank you very much for coming in and presenting to us today. It's definitely a unique concept, and we will, take that in as information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks for working with me on the sound issues. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Okay, have a great day.
Bye.
Okay, so we're going to move on our agenda to item 3.2, Alberta Forest Products, and I see we have Morgan and Bob is going to come up as well.
I'm just talking.
Okay, Bob is the muscle. Okay, and yeah, when you're ready to go ahead and start. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Morning, counselor and staff. So my name is Morgan Pike. I am the communications advisor for the Alberta Forest Products Association. So for those of you not familiar with the AFPA, we represent members from across province. They produce anywhere from lumber, they produce pulp, they produce engineered products, bioenergy, and all of that good stuff. So today, I am here to talk to you a little bit about the pressing challenges that our industry is currently facing when it comes to trade and tariffs. So I want to talk about we want to talk about the rising softwood lumber duties, U.S. trade barriers, and the global competition. So what we can do as well, I'm going to be providing a little bit of solutions on how government can help us and kind of give you solutions from there and see if we can work together on that. I'm also here with Bob, so I do have a member here to back me up if I have any questions relating to kind of the other side of industry as well. So thank you for having me as well. So let's jump into it. So the industry supports over 30,000 jobs across Alberta. So many of these are in rural areas such as yourself, where it is actually the primary employer for the area and folks in the area. So in addition to the direct employment that we have in the forest industry, there also is employment when it comes to engineering, construction, and a whole bunch of other areas and industries, which creates a ripple effect if we are affected. So the stakes are quite high in that regard. Alberta's forestry sector contributes significantly to our economy, but it's increasingly hard for us due to factors beyond our control. With the trade tariffs and regulatory hurdles that we're facing, and some of the shifting trade landscapes that we see as well. So let's talk about the elephant in the room and why I'm here: trade barriers and tariffs on Canadian softwood lumber. So right now, it's approximately 50% of Alberta forest products are being shipped to the U.S., which is a huge, huge market for us. And with all of the trade shifts, we are facing a 55% tax on all of those products, as well as we are seeing a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods as a whole. And recently, we have seen rising trade barriers. We're seeing recent increase in duties on the lumber. So 14% was the original. Now we're up to 30%. So it's just astronomical what we're seeing right now. So any support that we can get, we would love to see. So I want to talk a little bit about steps that we can take and the government can help us on. So the first one here I want to talk about is really just be an advocate for Alberta forest products in the U.S. One of the most important steps in this advocacy kind of journey that we're going on is going to be advocating for the U.S. to continue to partner with us and change kind of some of these landscape things. So we want to be able to push back against federal and international levels. And Alberta needs to push back against the unfair trade practices and communicate why these tariffs are not only just hurting Canadians and Albertans, but also America in result. So the key points here are lumber duties are a tax on the U.S. consumer. The U.S. housing market depends on Canadian wood to keep the prices stable for both the product as well as housing. The U.S. simply can't produce enough lumber domestically, and even with the tariffs, they're really going to need our product at some point. Alberta's forestry industry supports thousands of jobs across America as well, which I don't know that they know, but a lot of our pulp goes into their paper and packaging industries as well. So that would be a little bit of a problem if they also increase the tariffs as well. So that's another big thing there. The forest industry in Alberta also buys a lot of products from them, and these are big, big products such as machinery, technology, and even resins to do a lot of our panel boarding pressing. So another really big thing for us for exports. So by working closely with the federal government, Alberta wants to push for a fair and long-term resolution to the softwood lumber dispute as well, a big action item for us. And the second, we want to be able to keep Alberta's regulatory costs low. So trade barriers are not only the challenge, we also are dealing with domestic policies that are kind of impacting our ability to compete and be a reliable, viable industry. So British Columbia has seen these high regulatory costs, and it has led to a lot of mill closures throughout the province and a lot of job losses as a result. So Alberta is already a leader in this space, but we want to ensure focus on that so that we can keep all this regulatory cost low and continue to be a successful industry throughout Alberta. So competitive timber dues and streamlined permitting would be an area to help mills operate efficiently and remain viable. And keeping costs manageable protects jobs and ensures continued investment in Alberta's forestry sector. The third is to build with Alberta wood. So one way to counteract the trade uncertainty with the US is to boost domestic demand. Encouraging more construction with Alberta grown and Alberta manufactured wood can reduce a reliance on the exports and the changing to drop of a hat policies. A Build with Wood Act would be a powerful policy tool to incentivize local use. So BC and Quebec have implemented things that have been quite successful in this area. So we think it would be great to have that here in Alberta. Promoting mass timber and construction and engineered wood products can drive innovation as well in that regard and create new markets for lumber, which we'll talk a little bit about diversifying that lumber in a bit. So as mentioned, I gave an example here. So this is the Brock Commons. I'm not sure if you folks are familiar, but it's a 18-story wood building for housing for UBC on Vancouver. Sorry, apologies. So the fourth thing we have here is to advocate for federal financial assistance. So since 2016, $10 billion in duty deposits have been held by the U.S. Treasury, funds that are rightfully belonging to the producers in Canada. This financial strain weakens mills, limits investments, and threatens our jobs. A federal financial backstop could provide much-needed relief for these mills while the resolutions are still being played out. Alberta must push the federal government to act, ensuring our industry gets the support it needs to remain competitive and resilient. Fifth, as I mentioned too, so we want to continue to support market diversification. Alberta needs to look beyond the US and aggressively pursue other trade opportunities. We see growth markets such as India, Philippines, China, Japan, and Korea as significant potential. Alberta should be actively marketing its forestry products abroad and supporting industry participation in trade missions and international partnerships. A diversified market approach would reduce our vulnerability, again, to the US changing their policies very often. And to do this, we need to ensure that our products are getting out and that transportation for our products is reliable. Now, I know you folks might not have as much of the effect for that. I did hear from West Fraser that they don't have that kind of thing as a lot of our members do, so they do ship right out. So we are part of a alliance called the Community Rail Advocacy Alliance. So a lot of municipalities and us are active in this space in advocating to CN for a little bit more reliable to get our products out. So one action item that we are pursuing right now. And the last is to implement a forestry manufacturing tax credit. So to remain competitive, we need innovation and investment in value-added forestry products. A forestry manufacturing tax credit would encourage companies to invest in new technologies and other innovation strategies. This could support innovations like bioenergy, engineered wood products, and high-tech forestry solutions, securing Alberta's place as one of the most innovative forestry leaders. This tax credit has also already been proposed, but we're just kind of in the works, and we really would like federal action on that. So our industry is strong, but we face real challenges, and we would like immediate action on this regard. So with strong advocacy and reaching out to municipalities, we're hoping that we can get that. So what we're asking for is a letter to be sent to both Premier as well as your local MP. We do have a drafted letter for you folks to kind of craft out. We would love to work with you to get something like that out to kind of promote advocacy. So again, want to thank you folks, and I will give the floor to Bob if I missed anything. I don't know.
Hi, everybody. Do we have a couple more minutes?
Yes.
We're good? Okay. Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Morgan. You had a great presentation. I'm just flying off the cuff here, but definitely would like to thank all you guys for having us out today. We all know how important the forest industry is to our community, and how many jobs we provide. Like, we're about 130 people out there now. I know I've been here, and the number goes up and down a little bit. Business update for you guys. We're well positioned for the tariffs and other things that happen or are going to happen down in the States. Our product that we make in Rocky Mountain House specifically is not subject to the softwood lumber duties, so we're good there. The tariffs we would be subject to, but we sell about 75% of our product within Canada, so we're in good shape that way, and we've actually had an odd kind of benefit as well. We've had a lot of customers from out east reaching out and going, hey, we buy our stuff from the States now, can we get an in-Canada solution? So, we've seen some other interest in other areas there that might offset that. And I think for all of us, the biggest thing we need to think about is an overall economic slowdown, I think, is what scares me the most. I think, the other stuff I can't control, and even the economic slowdown I can't, but that one's pretty concerning. So yeah, no, we've always appreciated your guys' support in the past, and yeah, if Morgan will get a letter out to your group there, and we'd really appreciate you guys supporting us on that. I think that's all I got. I don't know unless there's any questions. And they're mostly from Morgan, not me.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Of course, this is a very dynamic topic that's ever-changing, and I see Councillor Auld has a question.
Thanks, Secretary Mayor. Morgan, would you, in your opinion, is it more barriers within Canada that you're facing, or would it be the trade wars with the U.S.?
Internationally is kind of our focus right now. As far as Canada goes, we're all right. I think it's just going to be the U.S. indefinitely is going to be the problem as far as trade goes. I think with Canadian, we're kind of working with our members to ensure that all folks are looking at options for in Canada kind of shipping. But yeah, it's particularly the U.S. that we're having problems with. Yes.
Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor, for Morgan. Build with Alberta that really captured my attention. I'm familiarizing myself with mass timber and cross laminate timber as construction options for stick frame construction, and that would use more wood. And with the talk of increasing housing availability in Alberta, is that something that could be promoted? Is it an effective alternative for stick frame construction? Maybe this is better for Bob, I'm not sure, but.
Probably not for me. I make it. I don't use it. Well, but you guys, there are a number of different issues I think that are looking at all those different things, and you're talking about more modular type. Thanks, Morgan.
Sorry.
You're talking more about the modular stuff where you can just set them up in a day or two and get some housing. Is that the kind of stuff you're thinking of? Or?
Yeah, and I'm just kind of poking around with this,
Yeah.
but yeah, the assembly time is a fraction of what stick frame construction is, right? So, yeah, and it uses more wood. I don't know everything about it, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we do have a group that we work with called Woodworks. They have awesome, valuable information on the benefits of switching to that mass timber and the different engineered products. So I would suggest looking at that website. I also have contact information. They are in-house, so we do work directly with them in our office. But they'd be happy to answer any of those kind of questions as well as give you more information.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Councillor Shippold.
Just off topic, Bob, just thank you very much for being in our community and employing people in our community, and for West Fraser for how they support our community. I mean, it goes unnoticed so often, and that's unfortunate. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks a lot, Dale. I appreciate it. Councilman Schickel. Sorry. Councilor.
So I'm not seeing any further questions. Of course, this, the topic of tariffs is a multifaceted topic that is going to affect all industry, all levels of government. And it's the uncertainty of what's going to happen is having just as big of an impact as the actual tariffs itself. So, anytime we can have industry come and ask for support, I think that's something that we need to definitely discuss and take action on. And I just wanted to thank you guys for coming in and presenting today and bringing this very important topic to our attention.
Absolutely. Thank you again. Have a good day. Rest of your meeting
Thanks,
as well.
everybody.
Thank you. Okay, moving on in our agenda, we're going to move on to adoption of the previous minutes. We have the minutes from March 4th in front of us. Is there any errors, omissions, or anything that needs to be changed on those minutes? If not, I'm just looking for a motion to accept those minutes as presented. Councillor Auld.
I'll make the motion to adopt the regular council minutes from March 4th.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion on that motion? Call it to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to delegation business, item 5.1, the food cycle science delegation. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns that we'd like to talk about in this delegation? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. There was a comment that was made about, this is probably for Laura, a comment that was made about a percentage of the green bin materials that are still going to the landfill. Do you have any more insight on that? Is ours, as far as I thought, was 100% going to Strickland Farms?
So everything that ends up in the green bin does indeed go to Stickland Farms, but there is still green bin material ending up in people's black bins. I was afraid you were going to ask me what that percentage is. We have the results of our most recent waste audit, and I can look that up and get back to you in minutes or by email.
Another question, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just, I liked the idea that Mr. Kraus put forward about questioning the commercial, like for restaurants and stuff, and maybe that's something that we could explore later on down the road. I just struggle, it's a great idea, I like it, but I really feel that what we are doing is pretty efficient right now with our green bins. We did struggle in the beginning to get the green bin use and participation in it, but I think since then it's been very well received by the community. And I really struggle with the thought of residents putting more money out for a in-home type system, and fear we would have the comments on, well, then I'm not going to pay for my green bin or whatever. I think that our system is pretty efficient as we are right now.
Okay, am I looking for any further comments? Councillor Schippold.
Well, I think we had a version of Dragon's Den there, and so I totally agree with Councillor Hutchinson. I think that we've asked our residents to pay green bins at this point. $200 per household is a significant amount of money. I just am of the thought process that we accept that as information and move forward at this point. We've got a program in place, as you said, Councillor Hutchinson, and I think we just stay with that program at this point.
Councillor Auld.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Schippold and Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. But I don't think we should leave off the table the industrial aspect of this. Getting it into some of the restaurants, if they're on board, I don't think it's something we should just drop off the table. I think we should look into it a little more and investigate what the cost would be associated for having it for the restaurants, because we don't have anything for the industrial organics right now. So I would like to accept it as information, but add on to that some investigation to the restaurants and that viability.
So are you making that as a motion, Councillor?
If there's no more discussion, I can make a motion.
Okay, so we have that motion on the table. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, do you have a question?
There's also other gaps that aren't receiving the green bin, as Councillor Spelt had talked about with the multifamily, multi-unit residents, and even places like the town facilities that we don't have access to the green bins. I don't know if it's a council or would be a town initiative to do that, but I would certainly be in favor of exploring some options for not just restaurants, but also maybe municipal-owned buildings, maybe multifamily units as well, exploring it.
Thank you. I agree that, you know, it's a concept, it's something different, something new. We do have programs in place with our green bins, and I think that's working, and we need to keep doing and moving forward in that area. But I do like Councillor Ald's idea of approaching commercial, even hotels. Maybe this is a solution that we can look at, because that was not something we decided to pursue as a council going down the commercial organics program. So maybe this is the right way, or something that could be used as a solution for the commercial aspect. Any more discussion on Councillor Ald's motion? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. All those in, oh, did you want? to
Just
read?
clarity,
Okay.
we're voting on the motion to accept the presentation right now? And it'll be a second motion for exploring options?
Okay, so, Councillor Caparo.
Thank you. I just wanted some clarity because it sounded more just like part of conversation rather than a motion. So I was just looking for clarity on what the motion would be, please.
Councillor Ald.
I can redo that motion. So I would accept the delegation as information and instruct administration to compile a report on benefits of looking at industrial composting for residents or businesses that don't have access to the green bins.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ald. Is that clarification for everyone on what the motion is? Okay, any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote then. All those in favor? And that is carried. So moving on.
Acting Mayor, if you
Yes.
forgive me, I do have an answer to Councillor
Okay.
Hutchinson's question, if I may.
Yep.
So our most recent waste audit in 2023 found, and this was a residential waste audit, that 47% of materials in the black bin are still compostable and organics. So that is down from 61% at the previous waste audit, and we look forward to another waste audit when council chooses to do one, and then we can track it that way. But that's the most recent data we have.
Okay, thank you for that information, Ms. Button. Okay, I am going to move on to our next item, 5.2, the Alberta Forest Products presentation. Do we have any discussion on this presentation? Not the, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I would put a motion forward that we support the delegation presentation and follow up with a letter of support. That didn't come out right at all. I'd make the motion that council accept the designation presentation on Alberta forestry and trade challenges by Morgan as information, and that council direct admin to support the initiative with a letter of support.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have discussion on that particular motion? I agree, this, anytime we have industry coming in that's looking for our support, especially during a tumultuous time like this with the trade tariffs, I think we need to support our industry as best as we can. So, any other comments? Seeing none, I will call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 6.1, the RFD for disc golf location report. And Mr. Kraus or Mr. Ament is coming to
Good morning, Acting Mayor and Council. Yeah, back before you with a little bit of a report following the open house that was held regarding the locations of the disc golf. I know that all of you were present at that open house, and we can say special thanks to our communications team who compiled the results of the survey that was done, that was included in your package. So basically coming back to you, so we were first tasked with finding suitable locations for a disc golf course in the fall of 2024. You know, we reached out to members of the Central Alberta Disc Golf Association to assist in identifying possible locations within Rocky Mountain House. I presented a report in November with two possible locations, the Riverside Park area as well as the Riverview River Flats Park. Council at that time chose to pursue the 18-hole course option, and then we went back and looked at other options for locations for an 18-hole course. At that time, we came up with the suggestions of the River Flats, Riverview area in the north end of town, as well as we did a site visit and looked at the area around the West Central High School. Then on January 29th was our first opportunity to do a public engagement. We hosted the open house. We had also created the online survey that was available prior to the open house, as well as it was open to the public until the end of February. We compiled the results of that report, which is before you now. The summary of that report, we had 316 respondents that completed the survey. The general preference for location was the high school location. Concerns about disc golf course related to environmental impact, access to amenities such as washrooms, parking, proximity to residences, and safety. You know, people also commented about the increased recreational opportunities and the potential for tourism and community growth, encouraging outdoor activity. Administration has had a further discussion with the superintendent of the school division. He reiterated to me that they're still, you know, not opposed to using that area, but we would have to have further discussions to come up with an agreement, similar to what we've done in the past with the skate park and the spray park and those recreation amenities which are on school property. So at this point, coming before council is looking for direction to continue those discussions with the school division and look at that site. And then we would go back, if the school is amenable to that, we'd go back to the Central Alberta Disc Golf Association. When the snow's gone, we'll get out and do a much more detailed walk through the site, come up with a proposed design for the course. The one that was presented at the open house was just a first, you know, glance at where the course could potentially be located. It would require probably part of the course on the school land, part of it on town-owned land, in and around the area to the, I guess, to the north of the school, using the trails and the open space that's there. So, if council, I don't know if you want to go through the presentation or the survey results. I'm assuming the council's had an opportunity to look at that. If you have any particular questions, I'd be happy to try to answer those at this time.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Do we have any questions regarding what we just heard? Deputy Mayor. Hutchinson.
Not specifically on that, more so on the parking lot addition, realignment, the things that are going to be done on the pump track. Is that going ahead this year? Or, the reason I'm asking is timing-wise to be, and I know it doesn't take a whole lot to prepare a disc golf course, but traffic flow and increased people for disc golf this summer, how would that be affected with construction of the pump track area?
I'm going to look forward to Dean to answer, because that's the
Yeah,
Public
so-
Works question.
Acting Mayor to Deputy Mayor. So currently, our engineering department is working with the Bike Park Society for their final design and elevation. So we can't conclude or finish off our construction drawings until we have all the elevations established between us and the bike park. So that will be done this year, those final drawings. Whether we'll get into construction this year, I can't guarantee. It just depends on that timing. So, but next year for sure.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Would we include in this agreement with with Wild Rose School Division, like use of their parking lot just in the interim until we get additional parking and things like that, or would we just update as needed?
Yeah, the construction and design agreement or use agreement will deal with parking, will deal with ongoing maintenance, garbage pickup, anything that deals with the school division, but those are discussions that we'll have to have. They may have concerns about, well, what happens in the future if they decide that they're going to expand the school and need that area. So there'll be clauses in there about, how do we deal with the future? If that is space is needed by the school division for their own use outside of a shared facility like this golf course.
Any more questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Alt.
Just back to the survey, it's not really a question, but there's basically 80% of the people that were surveyed either participate in outdoor rec activities daily or weekly. So I think there was definitely some pushback on the location, but I don't think there was pushback on the disc golf itself. They just want to make sure it's in the right location. So if there's no more discussion, I would make a motion.
Okay, for sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Be resolved that council asks administration to continue discussions and prepare a construction maintenance agreement with Wild Rose School Division regarding the use of school property near the West Central High School for a disc golf course.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have more discussion on that particular motion? Councillor All, did you have more discussion? Okay. Seeing no more discussion, I will call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to new business. 7.1, request for decision on the county library board member. Mr. Kraus?
Yep, thank you, Acting Mayor. So basically a housekeeping item. So of course the town has its municipal library that we're in agreement with for a 50-50 cost share with Clearwater County, and they appoint a counselor and a public member to the board. Because it's a town municipal library under the Libraries Act, town council actually have to make every appointment. So we are just asking council to make this appointment as recommended by Clearwater County.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Do we have any discussion on this particular item? Councillor Busker.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. I had an opportunity to meet Ms. Williger at our last library board meeting. She's going to be a fantastic addition to the board. And I'd like to move that the council appoints Teresa Williger to the Rocky Mountain House Municipal Public Library Board as recommended.
Do we need the actual time frame? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, from February 25th, 2025 to December 31st, 2027.
Okay, thank you very much for that motion. Discussion on that motion? I will call that, Councillor Busker, did you have more discussion?
Nope.
Okay, I'll call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. 7.2, the data center feasibility study, Mr. Kraus.
Yeah, thank you, Acting Mayor. So this item was discussed with council at the GPC meeting, and council made a motion to rise and report to conduct a feasibility study for a data center. So administration is just looking for council's resolution authorizing us to proceed with that and where the funding for the study would come from.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kraus. We did discuss that at the GPC meeting, and that's why it's brought forth now. Do we have any comments on this, or is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Capero.
Thank you. I'll make a motion. Be it resolved that council directs administration to contract a consultant at a cost of up to $20,000 to create a feasibility case study for a data center within Rocky Mountain House from the council priority reserve.
Okay, thank you for that motion, Councillor Capero. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Just to comment on, recap some of the conversation we had at our GPC meeting, and that, you know, any opportunity that we can put forward to the community to increase our economic development and awareness is always a great opportunity, and that the feasibility case study that was done in the past and how that has benefited the community over and over and over again. So I just think it's a good idea.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Any more discussion? If not, I will call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to item 7.3, the emergency management bylaw. And Ms. Breeze.
Thank you, Acting Mayor, Council. So the Municipal Emergency Advisory Committee met last month and made some recommendations to do some minor amendments to the emergency management bylaw. So the recommended changes are highlighted in your package. These recommended changes are to revise section 2.2, A111, to change the wording as the town has more than one deputy appointed in the past, so we just pluralize that. Under section 2.2AV, to revise the section based on the recommendation from the advisory committee to say delegate the authority to approve the town of Rocky Mountain House's emergency plan and programs to the emergency advisory committee. And then under section 11 of the emergency, because as per section 11 of the Emergency Management Act, the town of Rocky Mountain House Council may delegate that authority and duties under the act to a committee composed of a member or members of council. That is a mouthful, I apologize. Currently, the bylaw states that the council approves the town of Rocky Mountain House emergency plans and programs. And then under section 2.2AV1, it states, I would suggest removing this because it review the status of the emergency management plan and related plans and programs, because if it's delegated, if that's the way council chooses to go, they don't need to do that as well. So the recommendation is to remove that section if council approves the authority to the advisory committee. If they don't, so if council does delegate the authority, basically what would happen is the committee would need to come once a year and advise council the status of the existing plans. And then of course 2.3, remove this section. We should have done this prior. So this is, the town is not a member of the Clearwater Regional Emergency Management Agency, and we have a mutual aid agreement to replace that now.
Thank you for that presentation. Do we have any discussion on this particular agenda item? Councillor Schipholt.
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. Just one question. So when I look at the makeup of the committee, there's no elected official on that committee. Is that correct?
The advisory committee has 3 members of council.
Okay.
So we have the mayor or acting mayor, and then I believe Councillor Capero, and then Councillor Musker sits on that committee.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
So it says on here, a quorum shall consist of 2 members of the Emergency Advisory Committee. So who else? So the committee is just the 3 members of council?
Those are the voting members.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Caprero.
If there's no further discussion, I'll make the first motion. Be it resolved that council give first reading to amending bylaw 2025/05.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, call it to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And Councillor Ald.
I'll make another motion that be it resolved that council gives second reading to amending bylaw 2025/05.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion? Call it to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I saw your finger go, I didn't see the light turn on.
Light wasn't working. Be it resolved that council give unanimous consent to move to third and final reading to amending bylaw 2025/05.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion? None, I'll call out to a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. And we have one more recommended. Councillor Shibboleth.
Okay, I will let it be resolved that council give third reading to amending bylaw 2025/05.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to 7.4, the Council Professional Development Policy. And Ms. Breeze.
Thank you, Acting Mayor and Council again. So this policy had a full review and rewrite in 2023. We did bring it to GPC. Council recognized that taking some of these relevant courses was important to the role. One of the approved courses was Muni 101. So since the policy's been put in place, legislation has also been put in place, making this course mandatory. So the recommendation at this time from administration is to rescind this policy because it is, in our opinion, it's actually redundant because legislation states that you need to take these courses.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Breeze. Do we have discussion on this agenda item? I mean, it pretty much makes sense if the legislation has made one of our policies different, then we need to rescind those policies. So just looking for a motion. Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'll make the motion. Be it resolved, the council accept the council professional development policy 002/2025 as information and rescind council professional development policy 001/2023.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, call out to a vote. All those in favor? That's carried. 7.5, the harassment and violence in the workplace policy. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So there's been changes in the OH&S legislation in regarding to workplace harassment and violence. Where previously we were required to have policies, and then we were actually supposed to just do it through a hazard assessment to see if it's situated in any workplace or work environment. The legislation has changed that it identified harassment and violence in the workplace is a hazard. So there's just amendments to the policy that specifies that and follows the legislation. And then there's also just a few other amendments to contacting our employee assistance program versus specifying a specific company. And then the policy was reformatted in its entirety. So when you look at the change ones, it looks like quite a bit. But it's the same content, just formatted into our standard template for policies.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Do we have any questions on this item? If not, we have a recommended alternative. Councillor Caprero.
Thank you. I'll make the motion, be it resolved that council approve policy 004/2025, harassment and violence in the workplace policy, as presented, and rescind the policy 007/2022, harassment and violence in the workplace policy.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll call it to a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. 7.6, Spring 2025 repealing decision. I see Catherine coming up.
Good morning, Council. So this is the first of 3 decisions for the spring repealing decision for 2025. So earlier this year, the Governance Framework Policy 001-2025 was approved by Council. So this policy updated the governance framework to establish a consistent approach for developing, approving, reviewing, and formatting town policies. This aligns with the town's goal to create documentation that's clear, concise, and provides good governance standards for service delivery and supports Council's priorities and objectives. So in this policy, Council policies were actually defined, and these are written commitments and directions of Council regarding matters of governance, public service, programs, standards of performance for the town, and is based on Council's values, priorities, and strategic direction. A Council resolution is required to approve Council policies that are created, amended, or rescinded. So there are currently approximately 130 active Council policies. Administration is introducing a new process to bring forward a report to Council twice a year for the purpose of amending or repealing any bylaws or policies as needed and amending clerical errors in bylaws or policies. This new process is expected to bring efficiencies to the work of ensuring the town has complete and accurate policies. For the spring 2025 general repealing decision, administration reviewed all of the active policy list. The review of the policies included researching the historical record. So council policies are made through council resolution, passed by a majority of council at regular council meetings. To effectively and accurately research past council meetings, the legislative team worked on digitising past council meeting minutes. This work is sufficiently complete to allow us to research policies included in this report. It has been confirmed that the 18 policies listed in this report have not been repealed through council. The review also included consultation with responsible departments. So as identified in the governance framework policy, subject matter experts from various departments and business units contribute to the development of council policies as directed by the CAO. Review of policies involves the responsible business department or business unit who advises on the currency and accuracy of policies in accordance with our current service delivery. Subject matter experts have identified that the 18 policies listed in this report are not applicable to the current operation of the town. And the final step in the review process was a review by the CAO of all policies presented for repeal. As a result of the policy review process outlined, administration is recommending the repeal of the 18 policies listed in the report. Review or amendment of any of these policies would be outside of the scope of the current process and would need to be brought back to council as a separate decision. I'm now happy to review all policies listed in this report if council wishes, or if council has specific questions about any of these policies, let me know.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. We have all of these policies in our package, and I'm sure everyone has had the opportunity to read these. And do we have any questions on the recommendation to repeal these policies that are outdated? Councillor Auld.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. The only policy that I saw in there that really caught my eye that we're going to repeal is a strategic planning policy. I'm not sure why that policy would be irrelevant.
Thank you for the question. Through Acting Mayor to Councillor Auld. The strategic planning policy was put in place in 2016. It was to establish ongoing strategic planning process to translate the mission and values of council into actionable and measurable goals and provide long-term and short-term strategic direction for council and senior leadership. This policy was replaced by the Core Services Policy 009-2023, which encompasses the service level review process. So all of those concepts are captured within that policy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more discussion, questions, concerns, comments? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. Just a big thank you to staff who's put the time in to do this. You know, I do look at some of the policies and I kind of question why did council put that policy through, but just thank you for the work that's been done on it.
Okay, thank you for those comments. Yeah, from time to time, there's just policies that are outdated and no longer applicable, and that's what this is looking at, is taking those and removing them from our books, basically. Any more questions, or is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Auld.
I can make the recommended motion. Do I need to specifically label, or can I just be resolved that council repeal the following policies as listed? Thank you.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Auld. Do we have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call out to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 7.7, repealing decision for council policies with review date changes.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So this is the second part of the Spring 2025 repealing decision. As we've already covered, it is critical that our policies stay current and up to date. Any amendment to a policy needs to be made through council resolution. Of our 130 active policies, we want to ensure that all of our policies are reviewed on a regular basis to ensure that they are complete and accurate. The legislative team is working to incorporate a review date into all new policies, as well as review existing policies that are still applicable. To reduce the impact of the administrative burden of this work, policies will be scheduled for review on a 1 to 4 year basis, depending on the needs of the policy. And we want to balance this work, balance this annual workload across the organization to make sure this is manageable for administration. To further bring efficiencies, this is part of this new process we are introducing to twice a year bring forward to council a decision to amend, repeal any policies or bylaws and correct clerical errors. For the Spring 2025 decision, administration has identified for council policies with stated review dates from the active policy list, and we have completed a review of these policies. The review of the policies included consultation with the responsible departments. Subject matter experts from these departments contributed to the development of and any possible amendment of these policies as directed by the CAO. Review of the policies involves the responsible business unit who advises on the currency and accuracy of the policies. Subject matter experts have identified that the 3 policies listed in this report do not require changes at this time. The final step in the review process is a CAO review of all policies presented. As a result of the policy review process outlined, administration is recommending the review date of these policies is updated. Any further review or amendment to any of these policies would be outside of the scope of the current process and would need to be brought back to council as a separate decision. I'm now happy to review all policies listed in this report if you wish, or if council has any specific questions, let me know.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Again, we've had all these policies in our package, so we've had a chance to review them. Any questions or comments on the presentation and what we need to do to move forward? Okay, is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Caprero.
Thank you. There's only 3 here, so I'll just read them off. But be it resolved that council approve the update of the review date as identified in Appendix 1 of the report for the following policies: 013/2021 roadway winter maintenance policy, 014/2023 travel and expense policy, and 005/2020 liability for contaminated sites policy.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Caprero, for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that particular motion? Seeing none, call out to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Moving on to item 7.8, repealing decision for council policies to be amended, talking about the personnel policy. And then we'll go back to Catherine.
Thank you. This is the final part of this overall decision for spring 2025. So every attempt is made by administration when drafting policies and by council in the review and approval process to meet the goal of developing clear and concise policies. Through implementing a policy, opportunities to increase clarity and ensure that our intention and outcomes of the policy are clear to staff and the public sometimes arise. It's important for administration to bring these opportunities forward to council consideration in a timely and effective manner. To achieve this, administration is introducing this new process to bring forward a report to council twice a year for the purpose of amending or repealing bylaws and policies and amending clerical errors. For the spring 2025 decision, administration has identified one policy with recommended minor changes as outlined, and I will go through these. The policy is 011-2024 personnel policy. The first change is in the definitions section to remove 2.9 excess contribution. The reason this was a clerical error, this term is not used in the policy document. Change 2 is in section 711. The recommendation is to add the text as outlined in your report. The rationale, this was not as clear as it could be, and through the implementation process with staff, administration identified opportunities to improve the wording to ensure that this is an improved process, policy for staff to understand their entitlements. Administration is recommending an amendment to 011-2024 personnel policy to incorporate these minor administrative changes. Any additional review or amendment to this policy would be outside of the scope of the current process and would need to be brought back to council as a separate decision. So I'm happy to answer any specific questions council may have regarding the administrative changes to this policy.
Okay, thank you again for that report. Again, it's all in our package. So do we have any discussion or comments on this? Or is someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Moosker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'll make the motion. Be it resolved, the council approve the amendment of 011/2024 personnel policy as outlined in the report.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any more discussion on that particular motion? Seeing none, call out to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. And I think this is probably a good time to take a quick 5-minute break. So I will just recess the meeting for 5 minutes and we'll So we are back to our live streaming, and we are going to continue with our agenda. So moving on to item 7.9, Councillor Schipholt's notice of motion.
Thank you. I put this notice of motion forward at our GPC meeting. And the notice of motion is about providing incentive for third parties who are tenants within a building. We have incentives now for anybody who builds their own building, but we don't have an incentive plan which allows for a tenant within that building. So if we have a new business move in into a rented unit, it puts them at an unfair advantage if there's a competing business right now that would have built a new building and have got the tax incentive. So in order to have a level playing field, I feel that we need to look at people who don't necessarily own their own building but are a third party in terms of a tenant within a building. So my recommendation is that we have administration look at the possibility of formulating something that would address that. So I have my notice of motion I'd put forward as a motion at this meeting if there was any comments or how people feel about that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Schipholt. Councillor Caprero.
I just have a question for you, Councillor Schipholt. Did you have kind of like a dollar value or something in mind already in terms of like what you'd like to see in that regard?
I have nothing. I don't know what it would look like. I'm not sure if other communities have anything or if administration could bring something along for talking points that we could have a discussion about. Off the top of my head, I have no idea how it would work. I just think that right now we have people who are looking at our community and possibly a small incentive may be enough to bring them into our community. So I think the advantage of it is for attraction. But no, I do not unfortunately have any ideas.
Councillor Auld.
I guess not really a question, but I do have some concerns with this. These buildings that are in town that are rented out have probably been rented out for the last 50 years, as there's very few new buildings that have been done. Over the time, the landlords have taken rent on these buildings. Would it not be up to the landlord and the new tenant to design that building to meet the needs of the new renters? Or I'm just not sure how this wouldn't be, I'm not sure what the right word is, but making it more cheaper for the landlords to get new tenants into their buildings. When I think that's a risk that the landlords take when they build the building, rent the building. I think that's more on the onus of the landlord to have that building available and sufficient for the people moving into it. I'm just not sure on this one.
So I think that's a yes/no question. So the leasehold improvements are typically landlord-tenant items. In this case, I'm talking primarily about taxation. We allow for a taxation incentive for new build, and so that business person gets an incentive there, or a cash saving basically. If a new tenant from a new business moves into a rental unit, right now there's no incentive. The incentive could be between a landlord and a tenant, but the taxes are still payable by the landlord. In this case, my thought process is, we can give the reduction in, say, a development permit or building permit costs, stuff such as that, and we have to ensure that if there is a tax incentive, it goes to the third party, not to the landlord. So somehow that's where I'm not in my own mind sure how that could happen. I'm sort of where you're at on that. It has to be a new business into a rental property, and somehow if there's an incentive for that to happen. So we have some vacant businesses or vacant buildings on Main Street that have been vacant for a long time, possibly by having some type of incentive for a new business to open in one of those buildings would be advantageous, so we don't have empty buildings on Main Street. So, as we have an incentive for somebody to build a new building, not everybody can afford a new building, so unless you're your own landlord, does that come into effect?
So it would be a tax incentive for the new tenant.
I'm not even sure if it'd be tax. I don't know, because I'm not sure if it's doable tax-wise or not. So that's why I'm just asking for administration to have a look at it, because
That makes more sense then.
the tax is paid by the landlord, not, indirectly by the tenant. So how do we ensure that, we give the tenant the incentive? So I'm not sure even taxes is the way to go. I'm not even sure. So that's why I'm sort of making the motion this way, that administration come back with something, and if there's nothing, then so be it. But I just want to see us encourage the empty buildings have a tenant in them. And it may not take a lot of dollars to do that, just any kind of incentive saying we're a community that cares. We want to, have an incentive for, businesses in a rental unit, not only in a new building, so.
Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I share Councillor Alt's concerns. I think landlords are best positioned to make it attractive for new businesses. That said, I am looking forward to see what administration can come up with.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. Yeah, that's where I was going to, like, where's the responsibility of the landlord? We've got the storefront improvement program going, and we've had 3, I believe, take advantage of that. There's a number of buildings that, would be attractive for new businesses if there was something done on the outside of the building. But I also have a concern on, so if we have something in place, we give it to business A, and they decide after 6 months it's not for them, a whole new business comes in, business B wants to everything has to be renovated. Like, I just feel it could be very unpredictable for the town if we're giving incentives of that type.
Councillor Shippold.
To that, I guess I'm not sure what it'd look like. We can make some assumptions here, and that's sort of where we're at. I guess my request is to administration to have a look at what could work, and if anything can work. There may be nothing that can work. It may be just a decrease in permitting prices or costs. I'm not sure. But whatever that might look like, I just want to make sure that we got competing businesses on a level playing field. And, if one owns their own building and one is renting, the one owning his own building gets a tax break, the one who's renting doesn't. That is an level playing field. So, and we're in the middle of that, and I don't think that's fair from a municipal perspective. We have to be fair to everybody. What we give to one should be given to someone else. It's my take.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I guess that's where I would say, so what if business A just moved in a month ago, and we put something in place, and their neighbor beside them gets an incentive, so that's now not become a level playing field. So there's lots of questions in what that could look like, I guess.
Councillor Auld.
I was just going to comment that I think it's going to be a difficult one for administration to come up with. I'm willing to take a look at what they come up with for ideas, but back to your comment about the new business or new building, that is increasing tax base for the town, decreasing taxes all the way around. With every new building, it spreads out the tax. So if it's more geared to development, permitting, that type of thing, I look forward to seeing that. But I don't think it's the same comparison between somebody investing in property and building. That tax base is increasing versus just an existing building is not increasing the tax base to the community, so.
I'll chime in on this. I would like to see us explore this. Our tax incentives for new building, our tax incentives for land development are gaining notoriety from outside of our community. So I would like to see us at least explore this, see what it looks like. We don't know what it's going to look like until we start looking at it. But I would like to see us explore this because we're getting noticed outside the community. And if this is something more that can help us get noticed even that much more, and bring new franchises, bring new businesses to town, I definitely would be all for it. Councillor Schippel.
Yeah, thank you. So in regards to increased assessment, so an empty building is worth less than a full building with a tenant in it. And our assessor asks for commercial buildings, what you get for rent, and they do it on a cost basis as to what the revenue generation is. So if you have a commercial building, you get a letter from the assessor every spring saying, tell me what you get for rent on that. So in fact, if we do get a tenant in the building, it does increase the assessed value of that building, which equals more taxation. So there is some incentive for that to happen. And I just think we just need to have a look at it. And I agree with Acting Mayor, we just have a look at it and see. And there may be nothing and there may be something.
Okay. Do we have more comments, concerns, questions? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I was going to ask something similar to that on the difference in the tax assessment. So if building A has one business in it right now, they move out, business B comes in, renovate the whole thing, change it, and does that increase the tax assessment? So it was basically correct what Dale's saying?
Well, I mean, it'll vary. It depends how the assessor decides to assess the building, whether they use the income approach, which Councillor Schippel just mentioned, or if it's the market value for the building. So there's no clear answer there, and if administration will have to consider all those factors if council passes this motion to bring back a report to council.
Okay. Do we have any other questions before we move forward with this motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any further questions, so we have the motion in front of us. Is everyone clear on the motion?
Yeah, can Councillor Schippel read it out
Okay,
for the
yep.
public?
Sure.
Yeah, if you could.
Sure, I'll read
that
it out. I'll make that motion. Let it resolve that council instruct administration to prepare a report for financial incentive options to promote and encourage new and expanded commercial or industrial development in existing buildings requiring leaseholder improvements.
Okay, so everyone is clear on that motion. Any discussion on that one? Okay, not seeing any more discussion. I'm going to call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, moving on to item 7.10. This is my notice of motion regarding a resolution for AB Munis. So in the budget that the province has just put forth, they are going to be increasing the school tax requisition by 6.3% in 2025, and the anticipation is another 10% in 2026. This is something that as municipalities we collect on behalf of the province, and we remit it back to the province. There's been a lot of discussion. There was a lot of discussion at the AB Munis Leadership Caucus 2 weeks ago, and there was even more discussion at this week's RMA convention that this is a tax that municipalities are collecting on behalf of the province, remitting back to the province, but it shows up on our municipal tax bills. And I think it's time the province collects this tax on their own through taxation that they do collecting personal income taxes. So I would like to see a resolution put forth to AB Munis that the town of Rocky Mountain House advocates that the education tax portion of the municipal tax bills is collected by the province so that our tax bills are only municipal taxation. Councillor Auld.
I just have a question to admin on this one. Watching the news the other day, Mayor Gondik, she was referring to this as well. They said the city of Calgary gets like $12 million from the province to collect the taxes. And I might have the context a little bit out there, but does the town get paid by the province any amount of money to collect these taxes?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
I just think it's something that, you know, if they're adding 6.3% onto the education portion of our municipal bill, the residents don't understand that that's a provincial tax that we're remitting directly to the government. And if it's 10% next year, that's a large amount. And I think it's just time that we advocate AB Munis so that they can advocate to the provincial government that this should be separated and not be on the same bill. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I agree with that. I know there was, again, talk at the AB Muni convention we were at on the education component, and I do believe the province has released like a toolkit for municipalities to use to educate people that it's not the municipalities that's actually spending that money. We spend our money on our roads and our whatever else that we need to do in town. So I'm not sure if admin's seen that yet and if that's something that we can, no? But it would be definitely something to promote. I think it was through Alberta Munis. I'll forward what I had gotten for you.
Okay, so do we have more discussion on this particular motion? So I'll read the motion and then we can go from there. So be it resolved that the town of Rocky Mountain House put forth a resolution to AB Munis to advocate the province to remove the education portion of the municipal taxes and have it separate from the municipal tax bill sent to the residents. So that is the motion. Do we have any more discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to 711, the AHS Central Zone Privileging Concerns. Councillor Schipholt.
Thank you. I put this motion forward, and that's just to, it seems like we are having a difficult time especially in Rocky Mountain House, attracting and retaining doctors. And it's due to privileging. And so this motion is about doing an independent study as to what's going on. So in looking at other hospitals in our region, they get privileging for doing specific items. So the one that you can compare the most to is the operating room. What can we do in our operating room that, you know, or what can't we do that Stellar can do or Drumheller can do or other hospitals in our region? And the list is significantly different for our hospital. For whatever reason, we don't know. We have new equipment in our operating room. We have the ability to do stuff. It seems like maybe somebody doesn't like us here. And that's sort of the idea, I guess, is what's going on. So the county made this motion last week, and the hospital's been notified here that the people from privileging in Red Deer are going to set up an appointment, and I'm not sure if that's happened already or not through administration. The people out of Red Deer that look after privileging want to talk to their council, saying their notion is that we're not being given the proper information, so they want to come and chinwag with us to let us know why they do what they do and what's happening in our hospital. So I would recommend that we put this motion forward and just ask for a independent investigation into Central Zone Medical Affairs privileging to find out what's going on here. We unfortunately had another surgeon turn down here a couple of weeks ago from New Brunswick. Long story short is he does breast augmentations. You want to do breast augmentations here, they do them in Stellar, they do them in Drumheller, but they won't do them here. We want to know, like, why come? So the question was, well, do they have, you know, CT scan or what do they have there that we don't have that allows that to happen? And they have the same stuff we have. So he got turned down. What they told him was, well, you could work 2 days in surgery in Rocky and 2 days in Drayton Valley. Well, he wants to move here, but he doesn't want to have to drive to Drayton Valley for 2 days. So what's going on here? So anyway, this is just to say to AHS say, we want an independent study as to what's going on here. So that's what this motion's all about, and the county did pass it, so I'm hoping that, and they've asked for, I think there's been supposedly correspondence from the county, because they've, in their discussion, they've asked for the town to support them in this motion.
Okay, do we have more discussion on this particular motion, Councillor Auld?
The only question I have, do we actually have in the preamble, it says we have examples of this being neglected and mismanaged. Do we, as council, have that information? Because I haven't seen examples other than what you've just stated.
No.
No.
No. I should be able to get those examples. So
I would like to see those, just to be better informed
if they do
Central
come,
Zone's coming out and to have that discussion.
100%.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. I struggle with the word investigate, just because to me that's, you're already implying that something is happening. And we have, like Councillor All said, we have no information on that. I think I would rather have a discussion meeting with whoever it may be before we forward letters asking for investigations to be done. You know, until we get that information, I'm kind of on the fence about sending a letter.
Councillor Shippold.
I guess where this comes from is retention and recruitment. So I think the retention and recruitment are working at trying to get surgeons here and keep running into the same difficulty. And it has that feeling, and I think we just need to know. So there's only one way of finding out something, and that's to investigate it. And so I'm not sure what other word you could put in there other than to investigate what's going on, and they will come and tell us. That sounds like the route they're going to take is to try to not have an investigation done, but to try to say, hey, here's why it's happening, which we're 100% prepared to find out. So,
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I guess, I'm thinking more the process, and is it up to council to be doing that, or, and I don't recall that coming from the health team or from any of our meetings, so is that recommendation, should that be coming from that group and a letter from that group as opposed to council? I don't know. I think it would be more effective from that group, because then you could have the actual information that this is what we're hearing, this is what we're doing, as opposed to, you know, the six of us sitting here that are out of that loop, don't really know what's going on.
good question.
So I'll just put my 2 cents in here. So there's no question that we have had surgeons leave our community because of privileging concerns. And, the residents they can't find doctors. Like there's not enough doctors here to cover our needs. And we're spending the time, energy, and money to recruit doctors, bring them into the town, only to have them leave to go somewhere else so they can get privileges. So to me, this is something that, and I appreciate Deputy Mayor Hutchinson's concerns that we have a separate group, but I think it's time that council gets directly involved with this, because this is a concern that affects all of our residents, and we still get the emails on our ER being closed for periods of time, which we were being assured that wasn't going to happen anymore, but it's still happening. And to me, it's time that AHS gets put on the spot and gives some answers as to why these decisions are being made and how they're being made, because they're affecting us, they're affecting our residents. And I think it's just time that we ask a question, because these questions haven't been asked in the past, and we're the ones that are losing out, and our residents are the ones that are losing out because our doctors aren't here and they're going elsewhere. So I think it's time to do something. more discussion? If not, could you please just read your motion and then we
Yeah.
can,
Yeah, I feel confident that this is something we need to do. We need to be concerned about our community and the healthcare in our community. Anyway, I'll make the motion that it be resolved that the Town of Rocky Mount House requests the Government of Alberta to do an independent investigation into Central Zone Medical Affairs privileging and the obvious discrepancies amongst Central Zone.
okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I get where this is going and what we want to see at the end of the day, and we don't want our hospital being closed, and we want more doctors. I mean, it's a struggle across the province on that. I just am not 100% confident to be able to vote in favor of this, given the word investigation in there and, you know, the obvious discrepancy across Central Zone. I don't, it's not that black and white to me, that obvious. So I don't think, I won't be supporting this motion.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Do we have any more comments? Concerns, questions? Seeing none, I will, Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Would Councillor Spelt be willing to reword this at all?
Sorry, pardon me?
Would you be willing to reword the motion at all to meet some of Councillor Hutchinson's concerns?
I'm open to suggestions.
I don't have any suggestions.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay, Councillor Capero.
Sorry, I don't have any suggestions either in terms of wording, but just for myself listening to this, like, I too would like to know why can certain things be done in certain hospitals but not in our own. So I am in favor of this regardless of the wording because I think it's important for us to know that, but I don't have a recommendation.
Mr. Kraus.
Perhaps the word inquiry versus investigation might soften the intent. For investigation is kind of saying you know of some wrongdoing or some illegal activity, where inquiry is you're just investigating the process.
Okay.
I would make that change if that was suffice.
Okay, so our Councillor Schiphol's motion now requests the Alberta government to do an inquiry as opposed to an independent investigation. Is everyone clear on that amendment to the motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Yeah, that, and I would maybe ask the word obvious, because again, it's not particularly obvious to me. It may be obvious to you because you're in the hospital or, you know, around those people more. And the other question I had was, we did receive the letter from the county already, did we not? I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it
But I can't
came out
recall the
a
wording.
couple days ago, yes.
Wording of that one. And is this then just a letter from us and not adding our support to the county letter?
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Gross. I know, I've seen it, yeah, I can't.
So with the wording difference, it'd be an independent letter. So I think they use the word investigate, unless they're willing to modify their letter.
So you're recommending we have a separate letter? Mr. Kraus, or? Because our wording is different.
Different.
Okay. Yes.
So,
Yeah.
thank you, Acting Mayor. Having heard that comment, and if we could co-sign a letter with the county, that may be more clout. So I would be more in favor of joining the county versus doing an independent letter and just having both signatures of the town and the county both on the same letter. That might make more sense, meaning we're unified in our community's healthcare.
Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I'm in full agreement. I think that I would prefer that as well.
Councillor Ald.
Is it possible to get something from the Healthcare Recruitment Committee as well, so that this is being driven by that committee, sorry? I don't want to feel like we're overstepping our bounds in going above and getting involved in that committee. Would it be possible to get a joint letter from County Council, Town Council, and the Healthcare Committee?
Councillor Shippold.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. To that, we didn't have a quorum last meeting. So that was the problem we had, is getting quorum. So we had no motions coming forward out of our last meeting, just discussions. But I could most certainly, if we get a quorum at the next meeting, request that.
I'm just saying, if we're looking for clout and submitting something, I think it should be driven by the committee with councils in favor and pushing however the letter's worded. But if everybody was involved in it, I think it would have a little more teeth in it as well.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I would agree with that. We do have a meeting coming up on the 2nd for the health professional engagement team. And I know the county they put the motion through already, but I think if we could have the discussion at our health professional engagement team meeting and have the letter coming from from there, I would be much more supportive of going in that direction.
So do we have a copy of that letter, Mr. Crowe, that the county sent?
Dr. Mayor,
Oh,
I
you
just resend it to
Oh.
council, so it should be in
Just
your
got it.
email right now.
Just got it, okay. So I'm going to suggest that we briefly read this letter right now, and then we know what we're talking about, because we do have an active motion on the table that is different than having a joint letter go out. So it's a short letter, so that's good. Doesn't take long to read. Has everyone had the chance to read that letter now? So they are asking for an independent investigation. That would be different wording than what we're talking about in this motion. So if we do a joint letter, that's the wording that would be sent in a joint letter. Councillor Alden, Councillor Shippold.
This letter is a request from the county for us to join in on creating a letter. So I would submit back to them to change the wording from investigation to an inquiry, and to have the Healthcare Retention Recruitment Committee be involved in that letter as well.
Thank you. Did I see your light on, Councillor Shippold? Or no?
You did.
You did, but it came off. Okay. So currently we have an active motion on the table from Councillor Shippold to his notice of motion that we have not addressed yet. So I need to know, are we going to vote on his motion? Are you going to continue with that motion, Councillor Shippold? Or do you want to rescind that and change it?
I think I'm going to rescind it and change it to the second motion.
Okay.
And that's where we support Clearwater County's letter. And with the change of the word. So I'll just read I'm going
Yes.
to rescind my first motion,
Okay,
and
so that
I'll read the
motion-
second
So
motion.
that
Let it
motion
re-
is rescinded, so it's off the table.
Yes. So let it be resolved that the town council supports the Clearwater County's letter to the government of Alberta to do an independent inquiry into the Central Zone Medical Affairs pen privileging and the discrepancy across Central Zone, and reach out to the health engagement team for their support. Yeah. I appreciate the health engagement team in there. We've reached out many a time. I think that it's unfortunate we didn't have a quorum last meeting to get a motion to come forward to council. But that group of people have been working diligently to try to get this figured out and have been unsuccessful. So I think it's just I mean, yes, I agree we should get a list of discrepancies of what's going on, so we as council, if they do come to visit us, have black and white stuff. I 100% agree with that. I just don't think I think the health engagement team has been working, trying to make something happen. In this case, this is coming from the councils, which is a different level. And I think that we do not have to wait for the health engagement team to support it. It's been actively worked on, so I just would like to take out the part about the health engagement team support and move forward on this more quickly and try to get something happening and get our people at privileging come here and have a discussion with us as to what's going on. Mr. Nixon tells me there's 1,500 people in the province of Alberta who will look after the privileging component within the hospitals, which seems to be a crazy number. And so I think it's, Mr. Nixon has his own opinion, which I share and feel not that I need to share about that number. But anyway, I just think we need to move forward and take off the part about the health engagement team for their support.
So it's your motion, so
So,
you can,
yeah, I
you
will
can
make
do or
that
not
change.
do that, but
Yeah.
then we have to just have discussion on that if you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, let that be my motion.
Okay, so discussion, I see Deputy Mayor Hutchinson's light on.
I would like to see that kept in, because that group is the one that has the proof, how did you word it the first time? They're the ones that are firsthand hearing it and having it, and have maybe documents that say, this doctor didn't do this because of this, and the privileging didn't come from here, and I just think it would be added support to be able to strengthen a letter that's joint from the town and county.
Councillor Shippold.
One of the enemies that we have is, a lot of the stuff is confidential information. That's what's going on between privileging and the doctors at the hospital, and there seems to be a bit of a fear as to what gets said and what doesn't get said, and who gets protected and who doesn't get protected with this information. So I hear you, but I understand both sides of the fence on this one, and we got to be somewhat careful on how we approach this. So I don't want to put anybody into a position where their job could be jeopardized. So that's the fear we have. It's kid gloves on some of this stuff, unfortunately. I don't know how to put it any differently than that. I'm somewhat hesitant, and I'd like to be more out there, but I can't be.
Councillor Auld.
So with that comment, then, would the healthcare team be willing to give input when Central Zone comes out here to have a discussion? are they gonna be able to say anything to what these discrepancies are, and, or is it just gonna be them coming here and saying, well, we're doing it right, and you have no backup to say we're not?
Depends if the people are protected by the union or not. I'm sorry. It's a difficult one. I think the answer would be no. The fear is there. So my hope would be that possibly maybe our MLA might be there for the meeting, for example, or maybe the Minister of Health would get invited, because there seems to be opposing answers to the questions. And according to Minister LaGrange, she's having difficulty in understanding what's going on. There seems to be, I don't know, different stories. So, yeah.
So,
This may be an in-camera discussion one day.
so I'm just gonna, possibly put forth a different solution here, is we could do the joint letter between the town and county, and then have this as a discussion item at the next healthcare recruitment meeting as a potential item that they can put their own letter in. That may solve the problem currently that we're looking at. Because it is a concern if you have an employee wanting to endorse a letter to their employer that could, that there is some type of hesitation, I would think, on the part of that employee to want to put forth that letter. And if this does, get us into a position where we get a meeting with AHS and, and other bodies that be there, we want to get everybody in the same room and at the same time, because if we're hearing 3 different stories from 3 different people, one of them's lying. And we need to figure out who's doing that, and the only way to do that is to get them in the meeting and figure out which one is not being truthful. So would that be a good countermeasure to keep this motion the way it is, and then the healthcare recruitment team can discuss this among themselves and decide if they put in a letter or not? I'm seeing some nods, but I haven't heard any comments. Councillor Sheffield.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I don't know. It's a difficult subject to talk about in terms of what you can disclose and what you can't disclose, and what's common information and not common information. So, yeah, I think in this case, I think we need to make this motion and join the county and see if we can get somebody out here from privileging, and so we all have a better understanding of what's going on. I mean, I have an understanding, but maybe that understanding is totally incorrect, because I get one side of the story. Although it looks pretty black and white, it may not be as black and white as it appears. So I think getting them out here, they've indicated they want to come and talk to us, so let them come talk to us. This letter would then probably spur that more so to happen.
Councillor Auld.
So we do a vote on this motion and then make a separate motion to reach out to privileged department to come out here to have a meeting to address this? Or would that be down the road after the inquiry?
Councillor Sheffield.
I'm not sure I can answer that question. So privileging is indicated to some of the people involved in the healthcare recruitment that they need to come out and correct the incorrect thought processes about how privileging works. And that they were going to come out and talk to the town and county councils to make sure they're aware as to how privileging works for our hospital.
So to me, if we make this motion, we're talking about things that could happen after this motion, that we're not sure whether it'll be a meeting, whether it'll be, we don't know. So I think we just need to vote on the motion, and then what the steps are after that will be the steps that we take after the fact. Councillor Auld and Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
That's where my concern is, are we doing it wrong in the order? Should we be reaching out to that department and saying, we need more information before we start an inquiry? Or start the inquiry and then ask for specifics? That's where my concern is with the motion.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
That's exactly where I was going. Is it premature for us to be sending the letter out, or do we get people in place to give us the answers, or to give us that side of the story before the letter even goes out?
Councillor Shippold.
I guess where I'm at with this motion is that it's going to make something happen. We can always say, no, we're satisfied with what's going on, and send another letter saying, no, they've, quashed our indifferences or our opinions. Chicken and the egg, I'm not sure which is first. But I do think that this is, if we're going along with what the county's doing, this is going to stir something. Although I personally have thought we've stirred something many a time, and we haven't. So, yeah.
So I'm happy with the motion the way it is, with the word inquiry instead of independent investigation. I'm happy with that, and it will create something. What that something is, we don't know, but at least it's going to create something, and our voice will be heard. So I would be in favor of that motion. Our Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I'm almost at the point where can we table this until our next health engagement team meeting? I know we didn't, well, it was said we didn't have quorum, but after I did some investigation, we did have quorum. But because that's transitioning from old bylaws to new bylaws, whatnot. And while I was on there, I don't remember having discussions on this particular item. So would it be something to consider tabling this motion until we meet and get an official motion from the team that support town and county going forward with this?
In the discussion that I've been hearing is that the employees that are on that committee may or may not want to have their names attached to something like that. I think that is the gray area that we don't know.
And my question is, again, not with that committee in the process of changing to a society, it's unclear to me who voting members are in that group. And that's why I thought if it was tabled until we have a meeting and get some clarity. Just my thoughts.
Thank you. So I guess the question is, Councillor Shippold, do you want your motion to stay and to vote on that motion?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and do you want to just reread that motion just so we're all clear on what we're...
I can do that. I'll make this motion. Will it be resolved that the Town Council supports Clearwater County's letter to the Government of Alberta to do an independent inquiry into Central Zone medical affairs privileging and the discrepancy across the Central Zone?
Okay, thank you. And everyone's clear on that motion, do we have any more discussion on this particular motion? Okay, I'm not seeing any more discussion, so I am going to, Councillor Auld.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that when that letter goes from the county, that it is inquiry, not investigation. I just want to, we're going to have to send them a letter saying
Yep.
to change it, and
That I think, is that clear, Mr. Kroos, that we're, okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so any more discussion? Okay, I am not seeing any lights on, so I'm gonna call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Good discussion, everyone. That was a good one. So we're gonna move on to item 8.1, the Tourism Town Hall Series. And I think Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, you had wanted this added to the agenda?
Yeah, I just lost my. Yeah, this is similar to ones that some council, members of council have gone to in the past. And it is, sorry, I got the wrong one here. Red Deer. The Red Deer one is on April 9th, 10:30 to 2. I would be interested in attending. And anybody else who's still in town that day, Councillor Muska, and get a motion from council to approve our attendance if Councillor Musker wishes to go with me, but I would like to attend.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor
Can that meeting be done? Thank you. Can that meeting be done virtually, or does it have to be in attendance?
I didn't click on the registration, but I believe it is not virtual.
I think, anytime we can get a tourism town hall that we can talk about tourism in our area, specific to our region, I think it's worth, there's value in it to have council members go to that. So I would be in support of anyone that is able to go to this, that they can go to it. Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I also would like to attend this.
Councillor, Councillor Caprero.
I was just going to make a motion. I'll make a motion that Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and Councillor Musker attend the Red Deer Tourism Town Hall for April 9th, 2025, located in Red Deer, with their remuneration being paid for this event.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that motion? I'm going to call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Okay, next one is item 8.2, request for support for Mayor of Brampton, Ontario. Mr. Kraus, do you want to talk about this, or I know it was something.
No, it's a request to join other municipalities across the province in a Stand for Canada initiative, just in regards to the tariffs and all that, and standing together to support other municipalities and industry in Canada.
Okay, so do we have anyone that wants to chime in on this? Councillor Musker, I saw your hand reaching.
Slowly. Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor. While I fully support using Canadian suppliers of products and services, I'm not prepared to lend my support to Mayor Brown's Stand for Canada campaign.
Okay, thank you. So my concern is the Team Canada approach based on a mayor from Brampton, Ontario, and the Team Canada approach based on mayors from Alberta may have different opinions on what a Team Canada approach is. I completely agree. We need to maintain our Canada, buy Canada, use Canada at all costs, and we need to diversify our economies for sure. But if a Team Canada approach is talking about our oil shipments to the U.S., that's a different story that I don't think, we would have to have a whole other discussion about that. So my only concern is what Team Canada approach actually means, because I think that's different from an Ontario municipality point of view and an Alberta municipality point of view. Councillor Musker.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. I agree, so you'll forgive me if I'm a bit cynical regarding Mayor Brown's request for support. For the better part of a decade, Alberta's interests were under attack, and there was no call from an Ontario mayor to stand for Canada. In fact, Alberta's interests were not being undermined by a foreign power, but by our own countrymen. But now that it's Ontario's interests that are threatened, our support is requested.
Yes. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Hard act to follow there, but having said that, I would to just make the motion to accept item 8.2 as information.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion on that motion? Call that to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 8.3, the Taste of Rocky invitation for Friday, April 4th. So this was put on here because there's some discrepancy between in-town, out-of-town, I believe on the remuneration side of things. So we've got it on here because this isn't technically an out-of-town event, and we wanted to discuss those that attend if there should be remuneration for it. Councillor Ald.
I personally feel this is an event that would be covered under our honorarium. I don't feel it's an actual meeting, and I think if you're gonna go, then go and have fun, but I don't believe it should be paid.
Councillor Schipholt.
I support Councillor Ald.
Or Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I just wanted to point out that there's two events actually going on. There is the tourism workshop, that's from, I don't have it in front of me, 2 to 5.
It's in the afternoon. Yeah.
And then the Taste of Rocky from 5 until whenever. And typically when Discover Rocky has been putting on any of their tourism forums, I believe we have been paid per diem to do those type of forums. So I guess my question is, are we looking for a motion for the learning component of it? Because I agree the evening is absolutely on our own. And why I would like to see that split up is because if we said yes to remuneration for a Taste of Rocky, that could bring over a 4-hour per diem, which I don't feel is fair, but maybe conversation on the first half of the event.
Yeah, I agree that the Taste of Rocky portion of this should not be that should just be part of our honorarium, and that takes care of it. The other portion, though, is a workshop. That's what I would classify that as, and I feel there should be a remuneration for those that attend that portion of it. But it's a council decision. Councillor Ald.
I was going off of your 8.3 being the Taste of Rocky.
Yes.
So,
And the only reason I had that on there is because it's technically an out-of-town event, which would then be qualified for remuneration. I wanted to make sure that for an administration point of view, that they're clear that if it is or isn't, that's all.
I didn't see the invite when it come through. I didn't realize there was a two-part event, so if it's an actual workshop, then I'm fine with that, where we're actually going and contributing and doing.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
I would put forward the motion then. Any council who wishes to attend the tourism marketing workshop from 2 till 5 at Rival Trade on April 4th be, what is the word? Compensated for that time from 2 to 5 only.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that particular motion? Seeing none, call out to a vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Correspondence for information. We have 4 items here. Does anyone need any clarification or anything brought out of there to talk about? Or are we just going to accept as information? I guess we have 5, not 4. Not just looking for a motion to accept these as information. Councillor Ald.
I'll make the motion to accept correspondence for information 9.1 to 9.5.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. The action list for March 20th. Mr. Kraus.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. So going through the open items, so a workshop for council that has been established, and I think that the dates have been sent out to council for that. The Rocky Clearwater IDP, that meeting is set for Monday, so that will occur on Monday. The franchise agreement, our advertising period is over. We have sent the advertisement to ATCO, and they have made the submission to Alberta Utility Commission to proceed with that agreement. And the tax forfeiture property, that's still in progress. And I always struggle with the word, but
Okay, any questions for Mr. Kraus on the action list? Not seeing any questions. Is someone prepared to make a motion to accept that as information? Councillor Schibelt.
I also make that motion, we accept the action list as information from Mr. Kraus.
Thank you for that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that is carried. Item 11, administrative inquiries. Does anyone have any administrative inquiries today? Councillor Schibelt.
I may have. Thank you, Acting Mayor. The first one I have is 42nd Avenue Road and the weight restriction signs on there. So I guess more precisely, this is a Rainbow Ford Road. And in town limits, there's a weight restriction sign. I don't expect an answer because I'm just not sure. How do we determine what a weight restriction is in town limits? And is that weight restriction limit correct, or that sign has been there for forever? And I'm thinking we may have done some road upgrades during that time. So just
yeah, so Acting Mayor to Councillor Schibelt, I know I have had discussions with our engineering and department on it. My understanding, it's not our weight restriction, it's the county's, but if the sign's within town limits, I'll have to look into that. But my understanding from engineering operations is we don't have a weight restriction on that road. But I will need to verify that with you.
yeah, perfect.
Another, yep.
If you allow me. So once upon a time, we talked about having parking in the old Smart Shop parking lot, have them remove those concrete abutments on that property to open that up. Has there been any further dialogue with the property owner? I know it was changed ownership, so.
On Main Street, right?
Yes.
My history doesn't go back that far with the town. Our planning and department has had discussions with the landowner. They are willing for that, for a cost. We haven't established a cost with them yet, and we were actually just kind of holding off on that to see how our pilot project is working with no restriction of parking on Main Street before we carried on that conversation.
Thank you for that.
Do you have more?
Only one.
Okay.
So we're looking at economic drivers in our community, and right now, county residents take their garbage out to the airport road, and if they're bringing it into town, if they're in town, they might spend $1 in town versus taking it out to the their dump and going back home. Is there ever a remote chance of that dump becoming a shared property again? Or I don't know any of the history behind that. And this, maybe that should be an inquiry that comes back to a GPC meeting, or I just think if we can get people coming into our community for whatever reason, it could be considered an economic driver. So I just throw that out there. If there's a remote,
a lot of history there. But what I suggest to council is we have a joint council meeting with Clearwater County on April 7th or 9th? 7th? 7th? It's all about regional initiatives and visions, and maybe that's a topic council wants to bring up to Clearwater County. Because I know they have done a study or whatever for best locations for their transfer station stuff, and I'm not too sure where they're at with that. So that would be more, I think, a good discussion for that regional vision discussion with Clearwater County.
Is that something that we would want added to that agenda at this time, or?
I'm not even sure if there's any interest around this table to have that discussion or not. So I guess I throw it forward just to say, is there any chance? So
I would suggest that that is probably the most appropriate place to bring it up and see if there is any appetite to make that happen.
The opportunity is there, I guess. Like, there's nothing to restrict it, because some Clearwater County residents actually do use that facility. We do have a fee for their membership, which is a lot higher than our residential fee, of course, but, so, I mean, there is opportunity there.
Yeah. And the biggest discrepancy is exactly what you just hit. We charge, they don't. So I don't know how you overcome that, but.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
My thoughts on that is we aren't a dump in town. We're an eco center. So that's where a big difference is between how urban, for lack of better words, dispose of things compared to county or rural, where they have their own organics on their own yard, their own, that kind of stuff. But it doesn't hurt to have a conversation.
Yeah, and the other thing that comes into the mix is the new EPR program and what that's going to do and how that affects a county versus a town. I mean, there's some moving tentacles in that whole thing that may prohibit that from happening. I have no idea, but anyway.
Okay, so anyone else have any administrative inquiries? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on. Anybody have any notice of motion? Councillor Musker.
Thank you. Just give me a moment here. Patience. Yeah, so my notice of motion is regarding the business license bylaw. It's to have administration bring back an amended business license bylaw 2019/15V for council's consideration. The suggested changes are to remove any and all references to conversion therapy.
Okay, thank you for that notice of motion. So that will be brought forth our next council meeting, Mr. Gross. Okay, that'll be in April. Okay, any other notices of motion? Councillor Musker, did you have another one? Or, okay. Okay, so not seeing any other notices of motion, we will take a quick 5-minute recess and then we will go into closed session. Okay, we are back to our live session, and I'm just looking for a motion to go into closed session. Counselor Auld is making the motion to go into closed session. Any discussion? Call out to a vote. All those in favor? That is carried. We're now in closed session.
asked us all to send it to our administrator. So I'm gonna do what I've been asked to do, so you will get a copy of, yeah. I'll copy it, please.
Okay, we are back in live session, and we have a couple of motions coming out of closed session. Councillor Schipholt.
Yes, I'd like to so move, item number
13.2.
13.2, and that is dialogue with the CAO, that we accept that as information.
Okay, thank you for that motion. Discussion on that
Sorry, I didn't have my
motion?
mic on.
Oh,
So let me remake that
Yes.
motion. And that's item 13.2, that we accept the CAO dialogue as information.
okay, thank you. Discussion on that motion. Call that to a vote. All those in favor? That is carried, and Councillor Ald has a motion.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. I make a motion that the town sells Unit 604, the old ladder truck, to the Clearwater County for the amount of $65,000.
Thank you for that motion. Do we have any discussion on that particular motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried. And with our business being taken care of, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 12:41.